What's a vegetable that seems to be used more often in desserts than in savoury food? The answer is rhubarb. This episode is all about rhubarb, from planting all the way through to harvest. What's wonderful about rhubarb is that it's a perennial and it comes back year after year. These rhubarbs have been in this position for 6 years, and some of them are older than that. Some of them I had in other positions and I dug up and divided and replanted, but in this position they've been here 6 years. Ideally, rhubarb should be lifted and separated about every 6 years, but maybe gauge your bed, and if it looks like you've got enough space, leave it a bit longer. I'm certainly going to leave these a little longer. Mine would benefit from a weeding. You can buy rhubarb from farmers markets or nurseries, and usually they're a 1-year-old plant. When planting rhubarb, you need to make sure that the soil is very well prepared. Compost and manure, make sure the soil is well drained. Rhubarb doesn't like to be sitting in heavy clay. It is best to divide rhubarb in the winter period when they are dormant, and you will really need to get the spade in to break apart the plants. Rhubarb likes full sun but can tolerate semi-shade. You can also obtain rhubarb by perhaps seeing if a friend is dividing their plant. I always want rhubarb in my garden because it makes a dramatic landscaping vegetable in an edible themed garden. It's got those beautiful deep green leaves and these red stalks. Rhubarb is at its absolute best in summer and it becomes quite prolific. This is actually quite a small space, and so I need to weed out the rhubarb so it doesn't take over. And so I spend a lot of time at this time of year using rhubarb, probably for breakfast mainly. On my oats, I stew it up. For me, that's probably the extent of how I use rhubarb, although I have made a crumble today. If you're somebody that bakes, there are so many great rhubarb recipes. I think in America it's called the pie vegetable. Rhubarb does have its place as a great dessert maker. Rhubarb is renowned for its sour flavour, and for that purpose it's usually cooked with sugar. Strawberry is considered a good companion for rhubarb, and also those two plants cook well together. The red of the rhubarb brings out the colour in the strawberry. This area gets a very hard afternoon sun. It does allow the strawberries not to get too burnt. So it's a kind of fine line between a huge leaf sitting on top of a strawberry, stealing all its light, and a bit of passive shade. These are looking a little limp because we're having really hot days, but it'll benefit from a bit of a prune. Don't eat the leaves. They're poisonous to humans, and they're also actually poisonous to chickens as well. And cut the bottom off. Oh, I'm going to need a stronger. The red stems come down to different varieties. It's nice if you can get a red stemmed variety. I picked up all mine from the market, so it was potluck. And this bit goes to the compost bin. Rhubarb require regular feeding and watering to be at their best. I'm using worm juice. I find rhubarb needs a little bit of tidying up, especially in a small garden. If you had a big space, you probably wouldn't need to. Rhubarb is generally found in cool climate regions. They tend to need a cold winter to grow. As you move into autumn, it's best to avoid harvesting during that time and then leave the plant to recuperate over the autumn and winter period. This rhubarb crumble recipe ended up being very delicious for breakfast. Blend some pecans and whatever you've got lying around, some oats, and then add the mixture. I'm preparing this outdoors just because the light is so much better for filming. Into the distance you can hear an eastern cole, and they're a form of cuckoo that leave their eggs in other birds' nests. Also behind me, and I have to try and get a shot, is a blue bee. I can hear it. It's got a very loud buzz. And if I can get a shot of that. I'm going to put this in a 180 degree oven for something like 30-40 minutes. I'll have a look when this is toasty brown. It came out very well and it's delicious. A couple of little tips that have become apparent to me in the making of my film. A friend has recommended I add a little ginger to my rhubarb stew for my oats, and she said I'll never look back with that additional flavour, so I'm going to try that a bit later. You can preserve rhubarb in the fridge for a fair while. Don't wash them if you're putting them in the fridge, and also you can freeze them for months, but just give them a wash and then put them in a snap lock or a glass container and they'll sit in the freezer, and perhaps, you know, in the middle of winter a rhubarb stew might be delicious. Well, thank you for watching all the way through. Thank you for the subscriptions and the likes and the comments, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.